I'd like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Monday, March 18th, 2024. First to start will be our Assistant County Manager, Carrie Sanders, with our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord, be with the commissioners in their deliberations and bless them with wisdom and guidance as they address the items on today's agenda. Bless our citizens, first responders, and those defending our nation. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Amen. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here today, join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recognize a few of the elected officials this evening. Register of Deeds, Ms. Amiga Jarman. Town Alderman for North Topsail Beach, Rick Grant, and Sheriff Chris Thomas in the back with us this evening. Appreciate y'all being here this evening. With all that being said, we ask that all in attendance please set your cell phones to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public one opportunity to speak during the meeting. Comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be upon any issue in which the commissioners have control. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda. At this point, we're at item number 1, the adoption of the agenda.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and to add item 4B, Sheriff Chris Thomas presentation, and at the same time to remove item 5D, the resolution 240006, request for additional quarter-cent sales and county sales tax use.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. With no other items being considered separately, we now need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as amended. Now we need a motion to adopt the consent agenda. If anyone has any items they'd like to remove.
Mr. Chairman, we need
Sorry.
we just need to vote.
Take the vote.
The motion is second. We need to vote on it.
You're right, yeah.
Yep.
Man, I read their minds. I knew they were going to approve it. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect, thank you. Now, we have an agenda, and we'll move to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like removed and discussed, or we're looking for a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none. Motion carries. So we'll move right into our public comment now. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Smitherman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one speaker signed up this evening, Thomas Smith, Jr. of Holly Ridge.
Richlands.
Oh, man, I missed that. Oh, I see.
I was thinking maybe you'd moved. Yes, sir.
A little out of my comfort zone. Evening, Chairman.
Good morning.
and
Evening.
Board. I'm here to talk tonight about our sanitation ordinances for vehicles and stuff of that nature in your yards. A while back, last year, I received this in front of my house. It's a ticket from David Barnhart. He works for the county, and I'm not picking on him. He and I have gotten along well, so I'm not here to criticize him. This letter could have been given to the sheriff department, this ticket, and presented to me instead of putting in front of my house beside the highway for everybody to walk up and down and ruin the character that I have tried to present to people. I think it's very tacky for the department to do that. They have told me that my yard, I need to clean up. If a vehicle is not licensed in the state of North Carolina, then you must have a tag on it according to the county ordinance. You don't have to have a tag on a vehicle to get an inspection in North Carolina. I don't understand why our county makes you do something that the state don't even make you do. Secondly, one of the vehicles belongs to my son. I have tags to go on it. I can show you those. I was told that my yard was not in compliance. I received this letter. I also talked to Mr. The new man, that gentleman right there. I cannot think of his name. He's over the planning department. Mr. Stanton and Mr. Metcalf, that's who I talked to. And we agreed to do certain things and what have you on that. And I have since talked to Mr. Barnhart, and he assures me that I can meet compliance by the 20th. I had to go to court, criminal court, for this. When I talked to the assistant DA, he said that that issue was not what was relevant. My issue was. I have pictures here that I have shown the county of other areas, vehicles adjacent to my property and around the area I live. And I was told that these aren't the issue. They only have 3.5 people in the county to maintain an ordinance. And the only ones that they do is they only do the ones that are complained about. If you're going to complain on one, how can you take the pictures of his place and not critique the ones that's right within eyesight of him? And the answer was this: because you were the one that was complained on. I have pictures. The county, I feel like, should do more than they're doing to the other people in the county, not just me. I don't like being singled out. I think it was it's like defamation of character to put that ticket in front of my house, in my opinion. I just think that we need to address the issue. Whenever you see, if you would like to see these, I don't mind. I'll show them to you. I'd like to have them back. But addresses are on the back. If I can see it, I don't see why the county can't see it. And for that, I would like to thank you. I'd just like to know why I'm being singled out and made an example of. I retired from the county. I've always been a tax-paying citizen. I do a lot for our community. And that's not brag, that's just fact. I'm proud of our county. I've always respected the county and done my job. But apparently the rest of the county isn't doing their job. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Was that the only speaker for tonight? Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last speaker. Thank you.
So let's move right into presentations. I think, Mr. Smitherman, we've got.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first speaker tonight, or presenter tonight, is Cecilia Piers with Trillium. She's here to give us an annual report and answer any questions you have about the services they provide.
Thank you so much for having me in, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. My name is Cecilia Piers. I am the Southern Regional Vice President with Trillium Health Resources, and I'm here this evening just to share some information about Medicaid managed care, the care that Trillium provides to our benefit plans, some of the changes that have happened over the last year with the Medicaid system as a whole, and then some service data related to the residents of Onslow County. So Trillium covers services and supports for people with Medicaid who have the most significant behavioral health. That includes mental health, substance use, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and traumatic brain injury. We also cover folks who are uninsured who have those same needs. So last year, in our 28 county catchment area, and I'll tell you a little bit about the changes in our county composition. Last year, we served a little over 43,000 people by our plan, and the value of those services was over $653 million. So as you can see, we have a smaller population that we serve in terms of that overall Medicaid population, but because our members have the most significant needs, the cost of care is fairly high for them. Our goal is to offer as many community-based services as we can to help with the stability of our members in the community and to avoid utilizing those high-cost service systems such as the emergency department. So I've been sharing information about Medicaid transformation for a little while. Medicaid transformation overall was designed to bring the physical health and the behavioral health service plans together under one roof. That started with standard plans going in effect for folks who have mild to moderate behavioral health needs and physical health needs, combining those together. On the LME MCO side, the local management entity, managed care organizations, our tailored plans, the last start date for them was July 1st of 2022. Those have been delayed a couple of times throughout this process, primarily because in different parts of the state, the LME MCOs had trouble meeting network adequacy. They weren't able to get the right number of providers into their plan in order to launch. And what the state said is that we are expected to launch as one group. One tailored plan can't launch unless the rest of them do. So what happened with that is that the General Assembly took some steps to try to move that along so that all Medicaid health plans would have that whole person coverage. So a couple of things. With the last round of budget legislation, they included a requirement to reduce the number of LME MCOs from 6 down to either 4 or 5. They also put that decision in the hands of the DHHS Secretary, Secretary Kinsley. They also required that LME MCOs have a minimum population of about 1.5 million people, and that is to stabilize the coverage and the financial risk of moving those physical health conditions and the care for them together with the behavioral health. So that led us to consolidation. So Trillium was, as of last year, a 28-county catchment area that includes Onslow, and primarily it was eastern North Carolina, from the Virginia border down to the South Carolina border. We are now a 46-county LME MCO. So the way that transpired, Secretary Kinsley issued an order, a secretarial directive in November that required Sandhills to dissolve and become part of East Point LME MCO, and then it required East Point and Trillium to consolidate down to one entity. So through negotiations and a consolidation agreement, we made that happen. We officially became one organization on January 1st, and we started serving members as one organization on February 1st. So what that has led us to do is make some changes within our regions in order for us to continue to provide that local touch, that local involvement, while still covering 46 counties. So this is a picture of our map here. You'll see we have, in our previous version of Trillium, we had 3 regions, a northern, a central, and a southern region. We split our regions into 5, and so we will have a regional advisory board, which will include a county commissioner appointee and a kind of expert in either legal or social services or healthcare expertise as a second appointee. And Jacksonville and Onslow County has moved into our South Central region, which is a newly established region as part of this consolidation process. A couple key pieces with consolidation due to the very tight timeline. So we're talking about the approval of our plan in mid-December and execution by beginning of February. there had to be a surviving entity. So Trillium was a surviving entity. Our CEO, Joy Futrell, is the CEO of the consolidated entity that will continue to go by Trillium, at least for now. We may rebrand. And our executive team stayed in place as well. And the goal for us in that process was to continue to serve our counties in the same way that we have been, and then also to serve these new counties and new members in the same way that they've been receiving services before or better. So from January 31st to February 1st, folks would continue to get services. Our network team worked very, very hard to contract with new providers from East Point and Sandhills Legacy organizations. And then we onboarded all the staff that would come over so that we could continue with our internal operations throughout those 46 counties and continue to support our counties. So that has been a lot of work, and it's an ongoing process. Just because we started to provide services to more counties on February 1st doesn't mean we're done. But we are well on our way, and that has gone smoothly with our members and staff consolidation. One piece of that in terms of Onslow County shifting to our South Central region, I would like to introduce Victoria Jackson. She is our South Central Regional Vice President. So I will be shifting to I'll be remaining with our Southern region, which starts at New Hanover County in that blue area, moves down through Brunswick, Columbus, Bladen, Robeson, Scotland, Hokemoor, and Lee. And Victoria will be your primary contact here in Onslow County for anything related to Trillium health coverage, coordinating with the sheriff, with your DSS department, health departments, and you all as well. She'll be the contact person for you all, because we definitely want to continue to support the county and work with you all to help manage behavioral health. So the consolidation and some of the changes that were made in legislation are all moving us towards tailored plan. And tailored plan brings those physical health and behavioral health services together under one plan. So we will now have a combined network. We will now cover pharmacy benefits as part of our plan. That's a new option for us. For those tailored plan members, we will be covering the non-emergency Medicaid transportation, getting them to and from those medical appointments. And one key piece of tailored plan services is tailored care management. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So tailored care management is care management that is an ongoing process rather than a kind of event-specific coordination of care to get folks stabilized. It's ongoing care, reviewing a care plan, working with that individual to help establish and maintain connections with their providers, both on the physical and behavioral health side. That started in December of 2022, and we've expanded both internally with Trillium offering those services and with some of our community-based service providers offering those services. We've recognized through tailored care management that we have some specific populations that really need a lot of bridging among service systems and a lot of support and coordination with our counties. So Trillium has launched our support transition and reentry program that's focused on folks who are involved in the justice system. We're doing in-reach in jails and prisons to help plan for folks when they reenter the community to be connected to the care they need, especially around substance use and mental health when services can be disconnected by that incarceration period and need to be in place the sooner that they discharge, the better. We have our rapid access care coordination team so that when kids are in crisis and their DSS involved, rapid access care kind of triages that situation, tries to find the most appropriate service for them as soon as possible. What we want to do with that team in particular and with our DSS engagement team in general is to avoid kids ending up in the ED or in a DSS office. We know that that is not an ideal location for them, and we really want to support them either being in foster care in their community if they need it, wrapping services around them so that they can receive services in their home or with caregivers, or if they need residential services, to find an appropriate placement for them so that they are they're not in a DSS office. And so with that, we are starting a foster care management team to help work closely with our county DSSs, so that those foster care managers will be working with a small group of DSSs and really focusing in on working through those difficult situations that come up. Also within our care management program, we're providing whole person health strategies. So looking at how can we help our members be more engaged in their own care, manage their chronic conditions, focusing on things like smoking cessation, healthy eating and diet, providing some incentives around participating in healthy eating education classes. So doing things to help empower our members to live a whole healthier lifestyle. So some of the things that we have been working on over the last year, it's been about a year that the Healing Place has been in operation. This is not an Onslow County facility, but Onslow County is able to access beds at the Healing Place. It's a 200-bed residential recovery program. They have a non-medical detox, a shelter, and then a residential supported recovery program. We worked closely with New Hanover County to get that facility up and running, and it's now full. It's essentially been full for probably the last four to 5 months. It's going very well in terms of them being able to provide support and graduate members from that program who have success in recovery. We've been hosting a series of summits around specific populations that have been underserved as part of our health equity plan. So in Onslow in particular, we had a summit to support the Hispanic Latino community, and that was October 25th of last year at the Sturgeon City Center. We also have summits focused on African American health and health concerns in that population, and we have an upcoming summit around our Native American health concerns and issues that will be taking place in Lumberton. We've been doing value-based purchasing, so incentivizing our providers to offer kind of lower levels of care and engage more with our members so that we keep them out of those crisis situations. We've been offering community trainings called reentry simulations that really give you a feel for some of the barriers that our members and folks leaving the legal system face in trying to get stabilized back in their community. It's just to build community awareness of how that looks for them and how we can work together as a service system to make things easier for folks to reenter successfully and avoid recidivism back into the jail and prison system. We offered family solutions grants, so Easter Seals received a grant covering Onslow and some of the surrounding counties to recruit more foster families and also focus on some of the family members who might be willing to take in a kid if parents are not able to care for them, and to support those family members financially in doing that to get started before they become an official foster parent. And then One Community is our team that does outreach and education to the community around behavioral health, to build awareness, to reduce stigma. One of the things we hear quite a bit is that folks struggle to receive the treatment they need because of stigma around behavioral health and substance use. So our One Community team tries to participate in community events and share information to reduce that stigma. A couple of things, I won't go through this whole list because I want to try to keep it short for you all. We have partnered with the state to offer a recovery app through Chess Health, and that's really just another tool for folks in recovery to be able to plan their recovery action steps, to get reminders about attending treatment and meetings, to get encouragement through peer supports that are also using this app. And it's just another tool for folks in recovery to stay stable. Our housing team, so we have a housing team in Trillium that focuses on leveraging federal and state funds to provide permanent supportive housing and some rapid rehousing. And our housing team was issued grants totaling about $2 million over this last year. Most of it is renewal of funds. Some of it is new funds for rapid rehousing, which is short-term housing assistance, to try to help our members stabilize in housing and not let housing become the reason for a behavioral health crisis. Last year, we also provided Sheriff and EMS with a total of 950 Narcan kits to help reduce overdoses in the county. And pretty soon, our members will be able to participate in the Healthy Opportunities Pilot, which is a Medicaid pilot to provide additional services around housing, food access, transportation, and some other social supports that impact overall health. So getting to the Onslow data, so last year, Trillium served around 4,700 individuals in Onslow County. That's an unduplicated number. You'll see the number in terms of the breakdown by population a little bit higher because people are served for multiple needs and disability categories. And the total spent on services was a little over $58 million. And that primarily, there's Medicaid services, state-funded services for those who are uninsured. And that's all I have for you this evening. Thank you so much for taking in this information, and I'm happy to take any questions.
In such a broad catchment area, this is almost half the state that you have. How do we make sure that Onslow doesn't get lost in the shuffle?
So with our each region has a regional advisory board, and each board has 2 appointees from each county. And those regional boards are where regional issues you can really kind of dive into, and we can look at smaller systems within those smaller groupings of counties. And then when there's a regional issue that really is a concern or maybe an oversight issue for Trillium, those regional board members that are appointed up to our governing board will bring those issues up to the governing board. So you have a voice going up to our governing board, and then actions that the governing board takes or plans that they're making come back to the regional boards for consideration. So each county in our regional advisory system has an equal voice, and that's really important. It's also important that we have member voice, so each regional board has a Consumer and Family Advisory Committee member that brings that knowledge of the system in action to that group to inform actions that are taken by the regional and the governing board.
What do we do about our partners that are pulling out of Dorothea Dix?
So our network team is looking at options for how to help Dix, the facility, become sustainable. We're also looking to see if there are state funds through the Medicaid expansion bonus dollars that might go towards operations. I think there's a challenge there with funding. Over the course of about 5 years, Trillium state funds were cut from $110 million down to about 43, and that was covering our 28 county catchment area. And so I think those folks who are uninsured or underinsured, that's where your county contributions were really going towards supporting that population. And the state funding was not coming in for us to be able to cover that.
The problem that we're hearing, the board that's sitting up here right now, is the board that we're hearing is from the sheriff and the chief that they can't get beds. They have to go to the emergency room over there to Onslow Memorial Hospital. That's what this wasn't meant to be that way. We're supposed to make sure we could do whatever we can to keep them out of the hospital and make sure we had beds for the chief and the sheriff for our county. But it seems like that's not happening. Can you explain?
So I would want the Dix Crisis Center to explain their service model. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I do participate in those oversight committee meetings once a month where we kind of discuss more granular issues around folks being able to get into Dix.
I just got a question. We've discussed this, and I've discussed it with Carrie. My philosophy is if we have an ongoing project, we need to do everything we can to preserve the integrity of that project, because it is successful, even though we have the quirks, even though we have the parts that are broken. And it seems that some people need to step up, and I mean agencies, as far as funding is concerned, and dedicate more funding to, for example, the Dix Crisis Center, and now the behavioral, the HUD.
The BHUC, the
Yeah.
Behavioral Health Urgent Care.
The behavioral health clinic, and we need to really focus in on that. And that's a topic that we can discuss at another time, and I'm sure we're going to have some lengthy discussion about that for sure, because that's a concern of mine. It's a concern of my fellow board members, because I can't do anything without my board members, and we need to do anything that we can to keep the coalition, so to speak, together, or find other alternative revenues so that we can keep this thing going, because I think there are too many patients that are at risk for this, of losing those services, and we need to improve our services, that's for sure, in the way we do things. But I have a question for you. One of the concerns I have is, how is Trillium addressing providers that are local providers with getting state dollar funds for uninsured services?
So we contract with at least one or two providers in every area to make sure that we are meeting network adequacy, so that a person doesn't have to travel more than 30 or so miles to get to a provider. So we contract with providers in Onslow County to make sure that if they're uninsured or underinsured, that they can go to a provider.
Okay. Is Trillium, are you opening your door more to allow other providers that are Medicare, Medicaid qualified to join your network?
So the way we work is that we have a closed network. So we look at gaps in our system, and then when we see a gap where there's not enough providers or offering a particular service to meet the needs of our members, we will do a solicitation for a particular service or type of provider to come in. And so that's how we recruit providers into our network. What happens if we kind of open the gates wide in terms of the behavioral health network, sometimes what happens is it will get saturated, and then there will be too many providers, and they won't be able to offer these particular services that are very costly to start up. They won't be able to continue with them. Trillium's Medicaid population is only about 10% or so of the overall Medicaid population, because it is very highly specialized.
Are your providers having a problem with the waiting lists? Is there an extensive waiting list for people to get into these programs?
I have not heard of that, but by all means, we want to have communication. So if that's something that you all are hearing from the community, please let us know, and we're happy to look into it. When we see that happening on our side, that's when we start to recruit for new providers.
The reason why I bring that up, because that's information that I've been receiving from various providers that are saying that there is a waiting list. If you're not privy to that, then I'll probably have to have an offline discussion with you, reference that particular topic, because that shouldn't be. We should make it the services more available for those providers that are willing to become part of the network, if you understand where I'm going with this.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
happy to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Any more discussion or questions? All right, we thank you very much. Appreciate the information tonight and your time coming out, sharing it with us. Mr. Smitherman, he's walking to the podium now.
Yes, sir. The sheriff is approaching.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come up here and speak with y'all tonight. I have some information I'd like to share with y'all. I know traditionally a lot of the county departments have done department highlights for y'all over the years. However, the Sheriff's Office has not done that. They've not participated in that because they're not a department. They're the Office of the Sheriff. But I feel like it's important that y'all understand some of the challenges we're facing and kind of see where we are, and also think it's important that the public hears it as well. So I've brought some stats for you that I'd like to go over with you and show you. I did it by a calendar year, just so it's easier to keep track of as opposed to a fiscal year. So I've got some stuff I'd like to go over with you if we can. First, these stats are from 2023, last year. Currently, the Sheriff's Office includes 351 members. That includes our reserve deputies. As some of you know, our reserve deputies help us run the court system. Without them, we would not be able to staff the court to keep it running. Last year, or 2023, we had 78 new members hired, which also means we had roughly 78 members leave. A lot of those members left because they were affiliated with the military or the base. Spouses got transferred, so they went with their spouses. We've had some that would leave to go back home. They had gotten out of the military here and chose to stay and had worked with us for some time, but then decided they were going to go back to their hometown, home state, and so they would leave as well. During that same year, the Sheriff's Office has its own IT help desk that we also work closely with the county IT. But the Sheriff's Office IT staff fielded over 1,053 IT tickets. It's working on computers from the mobile terminals in the cars to the networks in the building to the surveillance system in the detention center and around the building. Training, there's been pretty astonishing numbers. We trained 38 detention officers. You had to be certified in DOCC, which Commissioner Buchanan is very familiar with. We had 6,612 total hours of training detention officers in DOCC. Currently, I can hire an individual and I could field train them for a year under supervision, and then I can send them to DOCC to get them certified before the calendar year or before their 12 months expires. There has been a move on the state level to do away with that, to require sheriff's offices to have you certified before. I can even put you inside the facility. However, the sheriffs in North Carolina have all fought against that because it's such a struggle to get people to go there to work. A lot of folks are really enthusiastic. They go in there and they go to work, and then they find out I'm locked up in here too. And they decide that it's just not the work environment they want to deal with. So we find we fare better and save a lot more money if we can get the individuals field trained first so they know what they're getting into before we invest in the certification program. Also during that time, law enforcement, both detention and sworn deputies, are required each year to do mandatory in-service training. It can range from firearms qualification, use of force, diversity training, cultural issues. It's just mandated training time each year. We train 314 members of the Sheriff's Office in that training. This kind of goes along with what your previous presenter talked about, and it is a tremendous problem for us at the Sheriff's Office. If you can look at the graph there, these are our involuntary commitments and the miles that the Sheriff's Office has driven to transport these voluntary commitments. We had 1,917 involuntary commitments that we served in 2023, and we traveled 380,000 plus miles in 1 year. The Sheriff's Office is tasked with the responsibility of serving involuntary commitments. So we're on the requirement to transport them to the hospital. If they're committed to a facility, wherever it is in North Carolina, we're required to transport them there. And if they have no way to get home when they're released, we're required to go back and pick them up and bring them home. So we have to transport them to and from. During this same time frame, we served 16,651 civil process papers. We took out 196 SRO juvenile petitions. These are petitions that are directly related to activities at our schools. At my direction, the Sheriff's Office has a zero tolerance for individuals threatening violence in the school. When I say zero tolerance, we are not looking necessarily to get the juvenile record. We're more interested in getting them some help so they can get processed through the system and will not do it, will not be a repeat offender. But we do take juvenile petitions out on all those that meet the probable cause. We also covered 94 community service events. That is everything from the Shrimp Festival to the fair, to DARE projects, Special Olympics projects, community activities that they have requested our assistance with. We cover all of those with our community services program. We had 103,726 courthouse visitors. Those are people that come in and out through our facility or through the court every day throughout the year that go through the metal detector. These are not the individuals who work there who do not come in that way. These are strictly those that are visitors or guests, most of which are attending either criminal, civil court, or paying fines. During that time, the bailiffs within the courthouse made 265 arrests on the property. So they're not just standing there watching the door. They are checking to make sure people are not bringing in dangerous weapons. We have domestic incidents in the courthouse that we have to address on occasion, and also individuals come in that may have an outstanding warrant as well. Our records division is pretty vital to our activity at the sheriff's office. Our records division includes our concealed handgun permit section, or hot files, which for those of you who don't understand, hot files is the wanted files for stolen property and things of that nature, our domestic violence protective orders, and our sex offender registry. We had over 2,320 concealed handgun permits issued last year. We had over, 1,483 renewals that come in during that same period of time. Some of you are aware, which you may have got some complaints during the COVID time or heard some concerns during the COVID time and a lengthy period of time it was taken to process the permits. I'm very happy to say that we're well within the state requirements of 45 days. It takes us longer to get the printed permit back from the state than it does for us to go through the process. So we're very much up to speed on that. We've had 734 domestic violence protective orders, which I know I came before y'all last year with a grant to get a victim services person. She has been vital in helping us process those and getting our victims through courts, as well as some of our victims of child crime as well. But those also require us to, when we serve a domestic violence protective order, I go to your house and orders require us to take weapons, firearms, ammunition, namely. I will tell you there are a lot of weapons in Onslow County. I have almost 2 full rooms at the sheriff's office that is full of domestic violence weapons that we seize, and the county manager has toured it and has seen the issue we have. And in saying that, thank you all very much for helping us with the CSI building project that we're working on. Thank you for that. But we have to maintain those. We have to keep them for the life of the order. If it is no probable cause found, we return them in about 10, 15 days usually, maybe 30 days. But if the order is found valid by the courts, it can be active for a year, 2 years, and we're required to keep those that entire period of time. And on an even sadder note, we have 363 registered sex offenders in Onslow County. They have to check in with our staff on scheduled times. They have to give us change of addresses. We go out and check and make sure they are where they say they're supposed to be. So that takes up a lot of our administrative staff and detectives' time as well. A detention center, last calendar year we booked in 4,973 inmates booked in. We actually booked out 4,964 that were released. We had 157 out of facility doctor visits, but we also had 151 inmates carried to the hospital. We have had times in the past where the sheriff's office medical bills for inmates have been close to $2 million, which is an extreme amount of money. But when you go to the custody of a sheriff or a jail and you have whatever insurance you have, it stops the moment you walk in, and your medical bills are then the county's problem. We try to work diligently to keep those down. We try to work with the courts to get the individuals who cause us high medical bills to be processed through as quickly as possible. But that does take a toll on our finances as well. The total out-of-facility inmate security hours was 1,173. Those are not inmates that were sent to safekeeping in Raleigh, which are watched by the state DAC. These are inmates that are in hospitals in our area. If you're there for a surgery, if you're there for some medical whatever process, we have to sit with you because you're in custody, so I have to have an inmate sitting with you. There are times I'll have 3 or 4 inmates in the hospital at the same time. They are never in the same room. So we end up sitting in whatever rooms they're in. So our investigative division, these cases are assigned to detectives for further investigation. We had 661 of general crimes. Those are everything from homicide to felony larcenies or fraud cases. 391 special victims. These are mostly child victims of abuse or sexual assault. We also have some elder crime in there as well. 284 cases that were worked with our drug enforcement units. These are not possession cases. Some of you clearly understand they're long, drawn-out cases, which take months and months for us to complete, and is very intensive on man hours. And we processed over 380 crime scenes with our CSI division. Last year, we took in 6,181 pieces of evidence. At last count, I have almost 70,000 items of evidence in our evidence room at the sheriff's office. If you can look at the chart, you see a slight dip in it. And for lack of a better term, I call that the COVID dip. We were on an upward trajectory, and then COVID came, and it kind of dropped a little bit, but as soon as it was in our rearview mirror, the numbers accelerated, and you'll see that in most charts that I present with you tonight. Our operation division, I think a telling number is we had 67,302 deputy-involved activities. These are deputies that responded to take reports that may have done a traffic stop, may have been responding to a homicide or a larceny or anything of that nature. So the deputies are extremely busy. During that time, the operation division, which most of you would probably identify as being the patrol division, responded to 261 deaths, 902 domestic-related incidents, 139 overdose responses, 2,979 total agency arrests during that time by the operations division, 8,860 traffic stops, and during that time we arrested 290 impaired drivers. Y'all know the concern we have with that, and have seen the years we've had multiple deaths on our street which were directly related to impaired driving. We have our Governor's Highway Safety Program, which is partially funded by the Governor's Highway Safety Grant system, which helps fund that. We also do a number of training on the base. We're not just out there enforcing it. We're not just out there trying to lock people up. We are going to the base and any other community organization that asks us to do a safety program, a safety lecture for them. We talk to them about the dangers of impaired driving and try to preempt it before it occurs. There's one highlight or one, I guess, good thing. We do bring revenue into the sheriff's office, most of which is mandated by statute. As you can see, our concealed carry, which is just third on the list, is almost $140,000 that's paid in. To each permit, the sheriff gets roughly $10 from it from doing some processing, and the remainder of it goes to the state. We did get $1,113,514 from federal inmates. That's a contract which we negotiated with the federal U.S. Marshal Service to house pretrial federal inmates. I will say these inmates come from all over. None of these inmates are released in Onslow County. They're transported back where they came from, and that's where they're released from. They're not released here. We also do state misdemeanor confinement. We've made $204,000 with that. I know some of you may remember last year I came before you and got a resolution for getting a roadside pickup resolution done, so I could do that. I'm happy to say by the end of next month you will see that. We will be picking up trash on the side of the road with inmates, and in doing so we'll also increase our revenue paid to Onslow County for housing state misdemeanor confinement inmates, because if you work X number of hours doing roadside pickup, then you can also get more money for every state misdemeanor confined prisoner you have. So if I have 5 working and they do the 500 hours and I have 15 in the facility, I get an extra $20 per head for all 15. Visitation, which is our Securus account, which also includes our portion of the inmate telephones, is $200,000, and vending machines is $115,000. I present you all those numbers not to make you dizzy, not for to overwhelm. That is a very short thumbnail of some of the things that we're doing at the sheriff's office. My number one priority at the sheriff's office is service to the citizens of Onslow County. And very top on that list is 1, protection of their constitutional rights. 2, be there when they need us, and be there in person and quickly. We prioritize calls. We work on prioritizing the calls with the 911 center, with Ray Silence and his staff over there, to make sure that if it is a high violent incident or an incident of particular concern, we're there extremely quick, and we do that. But our call volume sometimes is high enough that some of the lower calls or less dangerous calls, property damage, things of that nature, our response times tend to be long, because we may be responding to your property damage report and then I get a domestic violence call from over here and we deviate from it. But we do, our emergency calls, we do have good response time, but we struggle to keep up with the demand. I appreciate the working relationship the Sheriff's Office has with the commissioners. I talk to all of y'all quite frequently when I see y'all at different events and around, and I do appreciate the support y'all have given. I appreciate the county manager coming by and touring and looking at our facility and clearly seeing the need for additional space. And I do think the CSI project will help greatly relieve some of that, and I do appreciate that. If y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them or try.
I got one, Chris. The Motorola stuff that we were dealing with, I know that you all had put that on a back burner and you were talking about trying to make sure everything was dotted and the T's were crossed because we had a problem with the farmer system. Where are we at now with the new system that we're looking at?
Well, it's a joint system. We have 911 for the county, the Sheriff's Office, Jacksonville City Police, and Jacksonville City 911. We're working on a project where we can consolidate our system. One, to try to save the taxpayers a substantial amount of money, but two, to have a seamless exchange of information between each agency. We had originally contracted with Flex Motorola. Flex is a product of Motorola. What was bid to us or presented to us is not what we found when we started getting into the project. Motorola's come back and offered to do a Premier 1 version, which is their top of the line RMS, JMS 911 CAD system. We have since worked with the county manager and the county attorney to get some consultants in that do this all over the country because it is an expensive program, and we need to make sure it's right before we get it. It was supposed to go live October, was a year ago. So we're that far behind, and there's a lot of frustrated people with the Sheriff's Office, the county, and the police department.
The one thing I want to thank you for is your research, your development that you do on all projects. You save the county a lot of money, and we appreciate that, but you have some projects, other projects you haven't brought to us today that I know that we need some Wi-Fi. We can use some internet or something out to the new building, and the reason I'm saying that is because I'm one of the trainers for the college, and we need to have Wi-Fi, or we have to have some sort of internet out there so we can start teaching in that new facility. And I know you didn't bring it up today, but I'm bringing it up.
Well, I'm smiling because I talked to the county manager about it this morning. I managed to identify some funds under control of the Sheriff's Office that will pay for it. So I called him this morning, and I have identified the funds for that, and we're going to be moving forward. We've already discussed a plan for that. So that problem is the plan is in place. Now the time to get it done is what we got to work on.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, I know these are 2023 numbers, but that 196 SRO juvenile petitions, is there a trend as looking back, comparing it to previous years? Can you remember what the trend is? Is it accelerated rapidly, or is it holding steady?
It's not holding. It's trending up. We're probably, and it's been probably a month since I actually looked at the numbers for it, but we're well above 40 incidents of threats or whatever to the school. It's a large number. I tell you, most of the time, they are kids that have gotten angry and have said something in haste, and other kids have heard it, or staff has heard it, or parents have heard it, and they have reported it to us, and we investigate every one of them. They have been some incidents were of great concern to us. In working with the school, I believe Dr. Gartner's here. We've worked with them to investigate these. We actually now have an explosive detection canine that's assigned to a SRO, and we actually used that the other day. You know, that type of canine will find handguns and ammunition and things, not just explosives. So we are working well. We have SROs in every school. We have 2 in some of our schools. We're working with Dr. Carter in schools now to get a second one in one of our high schools that has one for this upcoming year. And the school has funded 10 of the 12 months for those SROs through their budget to help us make it happen. So, but it is trending up, yes, sir. And I will say, I'm not a social media fan. A lot of it stuff we look into is social media. There are some threats that come in that are very concerning, and when we get to looking at them, they are a threat that has floated around on the dark web that just happened to get attached to a school here that had absolutely nothing to do with Onslow County. Just some individual put it up, and it just traveled around social media until it found a place to land.
Chris, I got to tell you that the PowerPoint kind of gave me flashbacks to agency briefs and stuff like that. But that was probably one of the most thorough, well put together PowerPoints that I can recall as a commissioner sitting up here from the sheriff's office. And I see a young man smiling back there, Tommy Marshburn. I'm sure you had a lot to do with that PowerPoint.
He's a good artist.
Because I've known you, Chris, for over 30 years, and I think you utilized your man very well. But that was a great PowerPoint. And like Commissioner Buchanan, you failed to talk about some other projects that are ongoing, and I am aware of that Wi-Fi that is very much needed out there for you guys to conduct your business. And but again, I can't think of a better PowerPoint, and if you wouldn't mind, if you can, I would love you to forward me that PowerPoint.
Yes, sir.
Because I would like to sit down and go over it where I have some time to really study it, because it's obvious by your PowerPoint that you guys are very active, very busy. Caseloads have always gone up since I've been in law enforcement. They just continue to go up and up and up, and you've got to match that caseload with personnel, with money for training, because things change, as you know, in law enforcement daily. And I respect the fact that you presented this today. I really am serious when I say that was the most thorough PowerPoint overall briefing of a big department that I have seen from the sheriff's offices that I can remember. And I appreciate that. In fact, I was so impressed with it, I recommend you do this once every 6 months to give us an overview, seriously. Because that is one of our main mandates, is public safety for the county as commissioners. And the other thing I want to say is, I'll say it later in my comments, but your presentation today in which you presented just justify one of my comments that I'll make later. So I want to thank you in advance, and you'll find out when I make my comments. But excellent, excellent job. I appreciate that. You too, Thomas. I see you smiling.
I will, since you brought him up, I mention Lieutenant Marshman and Ms. Baumgartner with the county. We have a number of grants that we've tried to get and have been very successful at getting, and they've also helped us advance our projects and cover some costs at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
General items, here we come.
Yes, sir, here we go. And then for those of you that either watched or attended one of our last two meetings, you'll know that I called out Mitch Sprunger and he wasn't here, but I verified today that he's here and going to present 2 items to you this evening. So I'm going to call him up to present those 2.
That's right. I'm here this time.
God, he's tall.
Okay, Commissioners. On November 19th, 2012, the Board of Commissioners approved the Airport Land Acquisition Project as part of the Airport Redevelopment Program. This allowed for the purchase of 105 acres at NC 111 and Secondary Road 1254. This acquisition was listed as a potential reimbursable expense in a passenger facility charge application for $667,566 pending environmental approval. The environmental assessment was completed in 2023. Additionally, other tracts of land are listed for potential acquisition for the runway extension and roadway relocation project. The airport was awarded an NCDOT State Transportation Improvement Program grant in the amount of $300,000 to assist in the potential acquisition of this land. These funds will be used to reimburse the airport for costs already incurred for an environmental evaluation, a wetlands delineation, a boundary survey, and for a future appraisal. This amended project ordinance will incorporate the passenger facility charge usage approval and the NCDOT STIP grant award for a total amount of $967,566. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the Airport Land Acquisition Amended Project Ordinance, and if approved, authorize the chairman to sign the amended project ordinance.
Motion to approve. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
All right. And
Continue on, sir.
Thank you, sir. And following on to the ordinance, on April 17, 23, the Board of Commissioners approved the Airport Runway Extension Program, which included several components such as the runway extension, the realignment of NC 111, and the airport's entrance road. These projects are funded by the $29 million allocated in the FY22 budget by the North Carolina General Assembly. Additionally, the NCDOT STIP program has awarded a grant in the amount of $300,000 to be used for acquiring land for the runway extension and roadway relocation. These funds will be used to reimburse the airport for costs already incurred for a Phase 1 environmental study, a wetlands delineation, surveying services, and future land acquisition. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners accept the Airport State Grant Award for the runway extension Highway 111 relocation land acquisition in the amount of $300,000, and if approved, authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is going to be presented by Carter Metcalf, our Planning and Development Director, and it is a hazard mitigation grant program buyout from Hurricane Florence.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and County Commissioners. So we have submitted for the second round of Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or HMGP, buyouts for Hurricane Florence. And as such, the Board of Commissioners must approve the offers to purchase in order to schedule the closing of 219 Winter Place. Upon this approval, this lot will become the property of Onslow County, and the deeds will include restrictions that prohibit any future development. The subsequent demolition of structures on the property will be paid out of the public assistance funds. The grant program is funded by FEMA at a 75% amount and the state of North Carolina by 25%. While there is no local match required, the county must fund the project upfront and submit for reimbursement as the project proceeds. This concludes the staff presentation. Any questions from the board?
I just wanted to ask you, we talked out there in the audience before you got up here, but could you just, for the audience and for those that are watching, explain the benefit to doing this kind of thing to the general population of Onslow County? Absolutely. So each hurricane comes, obviously it affects properties at different rates. Certain properties are flooded and they experience significant loss. And so those properties are put on a list. You're contacted by our office and you have the opportunity to be bought out if you're a repetitive loss property. As the county purchases more of those and clears that land, it lowers our risk in the view of FEMA, and therefore it helps the subsidized flood insurance for all of the county residents. Winter Place, for example, we've already bought 4 properties. This would be our 5th. And so doing efforts like this at no cost to Onslow County taxpayers actually helps benefit them on their insurance subsidies. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I've got a question. Maybe I have a bad taste in my mouth with FEMA. So they want us to pay for it up front. I mean, what's their turnaround time as far as reimbursement's concerned? Is there a time frame?
I'm not sure, Vice Chairman. We can certainly follow up with that. I will say our FEMA representatives through this process have been exceptionally responsive with our staff, and our floodplain coordinator has been communicated with them today.
I mean, I agree with this. I'm just a little concerned that if we pay for this up front, I mean, I don't want FEMA turning around and saying, well, in 2 years, we're going to reimburse you for the funds that we've already put up front. So I was just trying to get a feel with, because their reimbursement rate during Hurricane Florence was horrendous. And I think there's still some FEMA claims that are still out there that haven't been filled. So that's the only reason why I'm asking.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure this is as fast as possible, and there'll be no hang up on the county's end.
So we need to
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Carpenter. We got a motion.
I'm so sorry
and a second.
Pulled me in and I didn't even.
Not sure if we need to ask for any discussion at this point, but do we have any further discussion on this motion?
Could you explain to the taxpayers what happens to the property that we've already bought? That's not allowed to be anything improved, correct?
Absolutely. There's no improvement on that property because the intent is no development will occur, so there's nothing to cause floodwaters which would damage other properties.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for our next item, I'm going to ask Pam Wortham, our interim finance director, to come up. This is a response to your February 19th resolution that you adopted, which approved some financial policies for our county. And the next step in that process is establishing the reserve funds that you have mandated that we seek to meet your goals as to how much money is available for capital, for emergency preparedness and response, and to stabilize our tax rate. And this evening, Ms. Wortham's presenting the budget amendments necessary to effectuate those new goals.
Good evening, Chairman Foster, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. Glad to be here to talk to you about these. As Mr. Smitherman indicated, you have approved the theory of moving the fund balance into the various categories. Excuse me. We have done the calculations. Excuse me. Our current fund balance as of June 30th, 2023, the total fund balance was $191,569,571. Of that, our unassigned balance was $92,759,093. The 20% minimum that we want to keep in our general fund totals to $52,477,905. That would be exactly 20%. So we will be moving $40,281,188 out of the general fund. The distributions will be as follows. The capital reserve fund. By the way, there is not enough money in that $40 million to allocate to the minimums of every one of these categories. So Mr. Smitherman and I consulted and came up with what we think are the best uses of those funds. We will be moving $32,698,050 into the capital reserve fund. The beginning balance of that fund balance for the county capital reserve fund was $5,516,338. The new, I said that wrong. We're moving $27,161,712. The new ending total will be $32,678,50. That will take the capital reserve fund for the county to 12.45%. As a reminder, we were hoping to get to 15 to 20%. We haven't gotten there yet, but that is our goal going forward. Excuse me, the tax rate stabilization fund, it currently has zero. It's a new fund that we are establishing for that purpose. We are taking that amount, moving $13,119,476 into that. That will be 5%. That is the minimum we're asking for, or our goal was for that one. The disaster preparation and recovery fund, that's the renamed, we have renamed that fund as, instead of just disaster recovery, it's now disaster preparation and recovery. The current balance before this amendment is $10,472,835. There will be no further funds allocated to that at this time. That fund current balance is 3.99%. The goal of this is, it's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the requested budget amendment to establish and increase the reserve funds, and if approved, authorize the county manager to sign on behalf of the county. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. So we'll move right to item 7 and our manager's comments. Mr. Smitherman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple quick things. And some of you know that I'm doing some speaking engagements, and one of the things I talk about is the need for external partnerships and our ability and our duty to partner with those throughout our community to get things done. And I'll let you know, I met last week with the city manager and the executive director, Von Wassa, and we're starting a regular conversation about things we can do to work together. And 2 things came out of this last meeting. One, you'll be happy to hear that we are, the city and the county are working together to holistically look at the parking situation at the courthouse, to reimagine those lots and the ingress and egress, particularly for handicapped folks. So we're going to be working together on that in the coming month. We're also talking about the 3 organizations working together on some employee training. So not only are we able to get some economies of scale in getting some external training brought to the community, but also find ways for our employees to interact in non-traditional means. We want to break down those perceived barriers between our organizations, and some pretty basic human resource type activity is a great way to collectively do that. The executive team spent time last week on Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, meeting with the community plans and liaison team, I believe they're called, talking about things we can do together, identifying issues that exist on both sides of the fence, talked about ways to improve our internal service agreements between the 2 organizations. I look forward to working with their staff to find ways to leverage both the federal and local government communities to get things done for our citizens. Our department head started a multi-month leadership development opportunity with Cape Lookout Leadership Solutions, where we are really looking inward to the organization, asking the organization how we're doing as leaders, changing our leadership techniques and styles, and giving our department directors and supervisors new tools to be better leaders in our organization. And then my final thing this evening is we are very well aware of the Dix Crisis Center's challenges that may be forthcoming. We spoke with Trillium, Cecilia, and the CEO and COO, I believe, last week, and asked for their help at looking at this Dix Crisis Center, helping us understand if we are meeting the needs of the community in its present format. Are there changes we need to make it more effective? What are our options going forward? And asking for that third-party review from Trillium to help us make good decisions about the future of Dix. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Commissioner Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things real quick. In our consent agenda, we approved a grant in the amount of $47,000 from the Best Friends Animal Society. It's for a feral cat, what do you call it, program to help our county with the cat problem that I think we all know that we have. And I just wanted to make the citizens aware of that, because I hear complaints about cats, and we've got a program coming up now that's going to help with the cat situation. And it doesn't involve euthanization. It involves capture and neuter and release and putting them back into the society without being able to make more cats. So I think it's a great program that's going to help us in Onslow County. Also wanted to mention, as for on Wassa, we had a groundbreaking on Friday afternoon in North Topsail Beach. We're building a pump station to help with the water pressure issues in North Topsail Beach. Wassa is now serving about 54,000 customers in Onslow County and working hard to maintain the infrastructure that we need to make sure that those people have good potable water when they turn the spigot on. And it's a challenge to make sure that we grow along with the
with the community. So we're working on that every day. That's all I have. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Thank you. Thank everybody for being here. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carpenter?
Oh, we're going on down the line. Okay. First of all, I just want to say how much I enjoy serving on the Airport Advisory Board. There's always little tidbits that I learn that I want to share because I think they're fun, and actually this might be very helpful for some of you. Proud to share that American Airlines is going to be adding another flight in April, so we can keep flying out of OAJ and not going to other regional airports. And another interesting tidbit, 10% profit increase in parking transactions. So there's a lot of people spending like overnights there and bringing in some more income there as well. The last thing on the airport is, as you all know, the USO closed out there and was moved on base. And we're excited that the ribbon cutting for Hope for the Warriors will be on March 27th. The public is welcome to come for that, and it will be staffed and operational on April the 2nd. So that's going to be a great addition to the services that we offer there for service members in the course of time. I also, last week was a great week on many different things, which I won't mention personally, but I have a new title of grandma, which I'm pretty excited about. But the other thing I was able to do is go to Boy Scouts of America award ceremony for the Distinguished Citizen Award, which was awarded to Mr. Charles Efford. And he and his Efford, I know I said that wrong, he and his family have been integral here for decades and contributed so much to who Onslow County is today, including what I think was one of the greatest additions, getting that Sturgeon City up and running, and that's pretty exciting. So thank you again to the Efford family and relatives, and have a great week.
Thank you. Commissioner Price?
I had a chance to attend Close Up last Friday. It's a great program. If you want to feel good about young people, you go to a Close Up one year and get a chance to see what they're doing, and the quality of questions they asked were really good this year. And so I wanted to thank all those who were involved either in Onslow County Schools or Onslow County government, worked in working with those students and planned it or had any role in it. It was just a great program. Also that evening, I enjoyed attending the Friends of Aging lasagna dinner at the Senior Center. And as a matter of fact, I'm still enjoying the coconut cake. I got a chance to purchase in the cake auction there as well. And one note that we need to bring out is that NC State, the Wolfpack, were able to go 5 games and sweep all the way through and win the tournament. And so as a Wolfpacker, and that's something I wanted to bring up and emphasize. Have a good evening.
It took 37 years.
Commissioner
We'll
Price?
take it.
I would thank you for your comments until the end. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Scott?
We don't need any more shock tonight, so good evening, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chairman?
Just a couple of things. One of the things that we removed from the agenda today and amended the agenda was a request for a quarter-cent sales tax. And I just want to be open and transparent to the citizens out there who received the original agenda, let you know this is why we did that. We're going to continue to pursue the quarter-cent sales tax because it's an excellent form to subsidize our property tax. There's no question about it. A quarter-cent sales tax will generate approximately $8.8 million in extra revenue, which at that point, when we receive that revenue, a percentage, and we haven't discussed yet as commissioners, a percentage of that will be dedicated to either public safety or a jetty or whatever we decide to come up with. And I was talking to Commissioner Buchanan. He's been a big proponent of this as well, and he's come up with some good ideas. And it's not going to solve our problems, but it's going to help us. Because our main goal as commissioners, we dropped the tax rate from 70.5 cents per $100 to 65.5 cents per $100. The appraisals that we recently have did not help. It helped some people. It did not help other people. So you have people whose property taxes went up, and then some people's property taxes went down. So this is our way of trying to obtain this legislation. We're going to probably pursue it here before the end of the year or the beginning of next year to get this proposal and hopefully get it passed so it'll help us offset that cost. And our main goal is to reduce the property tax. If we can reduce the property tax from 65.5 to even lesser than what it is now, that's a win-win for us, because none of us commissioners sitting on this board have no inclination whatsoever to raise taxes, but vice to find alternatives to try to decrease our tax rate. And the other thing about property tax, it's more equitable. It is more equitable, we've said this over and over again, because you got people that don't pay property tax. There are people that are exempt for one reason or another. But this county or this sales tax or county sales tax, use tax, that if we get that increase, that means everybody who comes into our county is going to be spending a little bit more for their goods to Onslow County. So that means people from Pender County, Duplin County, Jones County who come to shop at our Sam's, at our restaurants, et cetera, when they buy merchandise, they're going to get charged that sales tax, and it's more equitable across the board because every citizen who goes out and buys things in this county is going to pay their equal share. You see what I'm saying? And so that's one of the reasons why we pulled it now, because we're going to wait in January sometime when we feel we have a better chance to get this approved, and we think the citizens ought to chime in as well. It's up to the citizens, because if you tell us, well, I don't really want an increase in sales tax, then we serve the citizens and we need to listen to your voice. So you might be seeing some surveys coming out in the near future asking your opinion as citizens. Do you want a 2% or a quarter-cent sales tax to help reduce the property tax rate, yay or nay? And I think it's imperative that we hear from the citizens. And there's a good chance we could have a public hearing on it. I don't know. That's down the road in the future, and we can discuss that. But I think it's imperative that the citizens have a voice in this matter, because it affects you, it affects me, it affects all of us up here, because we're all citizens, okay? I pay property tax, but I pay property tax for the city and the county. I get double whammied, and it hurts. I mean, I had to pay my property tax for my car, and goodness gracious, just on my car alone, you know? And if I could pay my property taxes only on the city, I'd be in heaven, but I couldn't. So we're trying to find ways to do this, and we need the citizens' inputs. Send emails to your commissioners indicating yay or nay. Hopefully we'll have some type of survey out in the future, and that you'll be able to answer if you want it or not, because it's imperative that decisions should lie with the citizens big time. I think that you have the voice, and we need to listen to you, because we represent all the citizens, all of us that are serving up here on this board. So I hope you will partake in these in the future, but I just wanted to give a little clarification as to why we removed it at this particular time, but it's not a dead issue. We're still looking at it, and we'll be looking at it in the very, very near future. The other thing I just want to say is, Tommy, I'm serious, man. I know I'm embarrassing you, but that was an excellent job in that presentation. I mean, you know, you could die by PowerPoints, okay? I mean, death by PowerPoint is the old saying, but that was well done. And I know you put it together. You can't even deny it, and Chris can't deny it either, because I know he supervised you, but that was an excellent PowerPoint. And I really am serious if you could send it to me, because that was the most in-depth look inside of your department in terms of money, percentages of cases, and anybody, a layman, could read that PowerPoint and realize how busy you are and what a great job you guys are doing. So my hat's off to you, and I commend you both for it, and thank you again for coming up here. And one last thing, I have to admit this, because they've been giving me garbage. Yes, UNC defeated FSU badly in the tournament, and yes, congratulations to North Carolina State, to Mark Price, for all the ribbon I've given you about football. But just remember, football season's around the corner.
We look forward to it.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Lots of discussion going in on the quarter-cent sales tax. With each of the commissioners up here, different varying opinions. Commissioner Carpenter and I were speaking about it the other day at the Distinguished Award thing, and that was, we really need to have a plan in place, what we would do with that. Yep. And that way, if you hear that and you see that, then there's no speculation of what could take place, and that'll be some work in the future and some workshops and some things. So we were glad to hold off on that until we get more information and more clarification before we present it to anybody. Mr. Smith, we appreciate you coming out tonight and sharing your concerns, and I'm sure that we will take what you shared with us into account and look at what we're doing there to make sure we continue to move forward in a positive light with everybody involved with situations like you were referring to. With that being said, think it's time that we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.